Way along the Delaware River under the clear skies and brutal heat. And soon they caught sight of Brant and his men, and they had been met at that point by the contingent from Warwick under Colonel Hathorne, who assumed overall command. And Hathorne, like Tustin, being an educated man and quite intelligent, knew that it was probably a fool's errand to go after Brant. He said, let's just make sure they ford the river, which they're likely to do, because again, they had this intelligence from the Cushitunk people where the best fording spots of the river were. They didn't make that journey to cross the Delaware where they did just on happenstance. They knew where the fording points were because of the intelligence gathered from those Cushitunk Tories. But Hathorne, like Tustin, was shouted down. His men said, no, we're going to fight. And Bezaleel Tyler was among them. Some historians account even go so far as to say that it was Bezaleel Tyler who, when Brant appeared before them and said, let us go and nothing will happen, there'll be no bloodshed today, we'll cross the river, we'll be gone. But if my men begin to fight, they will not stop until every one of you are killed. Some historians record that it was Bezaleel Tyler who had fled Cushitunk to Orange County and who had led those raids by the scouts on the Cushitunk Tories, who fired his weapon at Brant, perhaps thinking that he would be a hero, the man who killed Joseph Brant. Probably next to the British soldier who killed George Washington, that would have made him famous, the most famous man in America. But he misfired and he missed Brant. And so the battle ensued on that hilltop in the brutal heat, and it lasted almost the entire day. Ammunition was soon depleted, and it devolved into hand-to-hand combat. And one can only imagine that at some point during that day, perhaps Cushitunk neighbors met in hand-to-hand combat and were forced to kill one another. We do know that both Bezaleel Tyler and Moses Thomas lost their life that day at the Battle of Minisink. And the sad part of it is that, as you've probably heard over and over again, the remains of those men, whether there were 44 or 45 or 46, we're not even, frankly, quite sure about how many died there that day. They were left on that battleground. There was no burial. For 43 years, their remains lay on that battleground to be picked through by the denizens of the forest, ravaged and spread. And so when finally a group from Goshen went in 1822 to try to retrieve them, they only found about 300 bones, and those are the remains that are buried here. We're told that about 15,000 people showed up the day those bones were buried here, and that one of them was Colonel Hathorne, who had gone on to a very respectable career as an assemblyman and a state senator and a congressman, and he spoke that day. And now my last appearance here at this podium, I quoted Hathorne's remarks, and they were quite prescient in his prediction for America and what was ahead. And that if we forgot the lessons that those patriots attempted to provide that day, that this nation would quickly fade away. And I think we've marched inexorably toward that point in time where we don't teach our youngsters the lessons of history, and so they don't learn the sacrifices that those men made, and many men like them, throughout not just the Revolutionary War, but our other Civil War and all the wars since. And that's not for the good. Our country suffers because of that. So in an attempt to somewhat right the wrong done to those 44 or 45 or 46 men who were killed and left to molder on that battleground, we are going to announce tomorrow at the ceremony at 4 o'clock a new initiative. We're going to start a fundraising drive to create a monument at the battleground. Not a general monument. There's a great monument there that was dedicated on the centennial of the battle in 1879, but a monument that lists, just as you have here, the names of the 46. Believe it or not, in all the years that that battle's been commemorated on that site, there is not a listing of the men killed there. It's in the program every year, but there's no permanent record of their sacrifice on that battleground. And so we're going to announce tomorrow the beginning of a fundraising drive to create a permanent marker with the names of the fallen. So at 4 o'clock tomorrow, as we've done for more than 135 years, we will mark the battle at the site at 4 o'clock. You're all welcome to join us, invited and urged to attend. And I hope that whether or not you can make it tomorrow, and forgive me if this sounds like a shameless plea of self-promotion, but I hope you'll consider contributing to our fund to create this permanent marker to the 46 fallen soldiers. So I thank you for your dedication in keeping this ceremony alive and for your help, because every year we have representatives from Goshen at our event in Sullivan County. So thank you for that as well. And once again, I thank you for allowing me to be part of your ceremony here today. It's an honor to do so. And I hope also, just as an afterthought, that you'll forgive me. It was really kind of thoughtless of me. I wore a British regimental tie to this event, and I realize that's probably inappropriate, so please forgive me for that oversight. But thank you again, Barbara, for your invitation.